Dear friends, glad to see you all on Feygin Live. It is Thursday, 7th of July, 10 p.m. Kiev time, day 134 of this war with Olexiy Arestovych. Glad to see you, Olexiy. We have over 70,000 people watching us. About 10,000 already left their likes. That's the usual stats for the beginning of this show. Don't forget to leave a like and subscribe to Feygin Live, to Olexiy Arestovych. And if you're watching that in English, subscribe to the Privateer station as well. This all works really well when you're watching the video and leaving the like and subscribing if you have not done that yet. Alright, let's start. Map is yours, Olexiy. Tell us if anything changed yet on the fronts. No more major changes out there. There are some tactical motions, but and actually they're trying to headbutt our defense line from Bakhmut to Seversk. Otherwise, it's very similar to what was there in the last couple of days. Artillery duels, them trying to sneak here and there, finding resistance, getting kicked back. They continue moving some detachments from Zaporozhye to Kherson to reinforce it and curb our counter-attack there. They keep shelling the cities with what they have. They killed 5, wounded 3. Several people were sitting on a bench near the house. One of the missiles hit the place and they're all gone. From among the major events noteworthy, our troops landed on Snake Island and placed Ukrainian flag there. So let's talk about Kharkiv. I got a bunch of questions from it. They're criticizing air defense, saying it's not enough. I think we already discussed that, but it seems to be still important. People still worry about it. Any perspectives of the Russian troops right now that they may move from the border towards the city? Is there a threat that they may try to surround it? Those troops that were moving to the north of the Kharkiv region, they paused because they met significant resistance. And behind them, they have a 144th Division in Belarus. And they also have, I think, one brigade of the shore defense, which definitely is a force. If they will send it towards Kharkiv, it may give us some trouble on that side, but according to their other goals that they have, they probably are targeting other areas, not Kharkiv. It's just resting there for now to keep threatening us, but I suspect they will still send it down to Slavyansk and Kramatorsk, because they feel the threat on the right flank from Kharkiv and our troops there, so they have to use something to pause them, to hold them there and to draw their attention by providing continuous threat. There is a division plus a brigade, so that's definitely causing us to keep some troops there, both air defense, infantry, and other support units. It doesn't make sense to throw it at the city because that's not enough force to take it, but to hold them, to threaten us, and then maybe as a secondary group, if there'll be any success on the other part of the front, to send it there to push through. And even if they choose to attack Kharkiv, then they will not take the city, they'll shell it, there'll be fights around it, but they will be lacking these forces in Slavyansk and Kramatorsk area. And I have to mention that interception of artillery shells is not the task of air defense systems. There is no way to stop that kind of fire effectively. Alright, understand. Let's go back to Severodonetsk, Lysychansk, that area. Slavyansk, Kramatorsk. Can we postulate some pause on that direction? Because you seem to be pretty successful with hitting their ammo depots in Donetsk and all around that area. We discussed that a couple of days ago, and I'm wondering if anything changed. Can we gauge the intensity of their movement from Lysychansk to the west? Or can we say that they essentially paused and doing rotation and figuring things out? They took the pause and they're holding on to it. And it's still pretty flaccid and falls down. Yeah, that's what's happening. This is not even a prognosis. This is reality. Their tempo is really deflated right now, probably because we hit their warehouses and logistics. The ones immediately related to the groups trying to attack Slavyansk, Bakhmut, and the line Siversk, Bakhmut. That's roughly our defense line. They tried to steamroll into Slavyansk, but they took about a day to storm empty Lysychansk. Then they tried to follow our troops in their retreat and attack us. Didn't quite work for them, and we basically pushed them back and stopped them. Not even the tempo of advancement, but the tempo of preparations for advancement, for an offensive. The speed of concentrating resources, creating those logistical connections, fuel, ammo. All our hits on their warehouses significantly weakened their capability to do anything effective there. And the preparation of the future offensive to Slavyansk and further, this is a very difficult task for them. It's non-trivial now with our capabilities to destroy their lines. So now it's a significant issue for them to even prepare for an offensive. They are doing some tactical motions. Individual detachments are trying to push here and there, some artillery fighting. But as a general front, it is a very complicated task because their general supply line has suffered dramatically. Their artillery is not too active on that front either, because they have significant issues with shells. On the Russian side, yes, on the Russian side. So right now this is a non-trivial task for them to prepare for the offensive that they declared they'll do. We definitely hit them in the right spot so they cannot continue as they planned. And they're trying to sit down, take a pause, get their bearings, and see what else they can do. Alright, let's then switch attention to the Snake Island, to Zmeiny. Russian side said that they continue hitting it. Are they trying to shoot the soldiers who planted the flag there? Did they decide that they'll do the same thing as Ukrainians did and will just not let anyone live on this island? There's nobody living there besides the Ukraine flag. So they're trying to kill the Ukrainian flag on the island, right? They'll probably get really tired trying to hit the flag. Because nobody of our life forces is going to live there. By the way, we had Chernobyevka 25 today. At 14:23 we hit them, and at 15:37 it was still exploding and fireworking. So we symbolically placed the flag there. There is no reason for us to be there. When Russian side decided or figured that somebody was there, they started shelling the island. They hit the pier, but there were no Ukrainian troops there already. All right, well, a story. 275,000 are watching us. 64,000 already left their likes. Again, those who just joined us, share links, leave your likes. That absolutely helps us to promote the streams, as nothing else works. Google and YouTube do not allow to promote anything war-related. Putin was holding a meeting today. I briefly saw that. And his first thesis was, let them try to attack us. And he was commenting on the statement that it will be decided on the battlefield. He was saying that Ukraine does not want to negotiate, that it's being instigated by the Western allies, and he basically said, well, let them try. I don't quite know what he means, because the Russians keep trying for the last 4 months and nothing is working. And his other part of his statement was that we haven't even started yet. So what do you mean? What do you think he could mean? That they have not showed anyone yet? Do they even have anything that they have not used on this war besides the obvious? Anything, and referral to the impeachment joke. What erection to what do you think it is? They are gauging their internal audience. All his statements right now are targeting internal audience. They probably gauged the most screaming requests of their society, and he was trying to address that. I wanted to say, give them one answer. You did not start yet, but you already are winding down. All their efforts don't really have long to live. Maybe a month, month and a half, and after that it'll completely wither. I don't know what to comment on the statement of a man who is completely disconnected from reality. He is trying to make a good face when his game is really bad. Do you think it's the first or the second? I think he already knows. I think he definitely knows what's happening. If they started 24th of February and only by the 4th of July they kind of sort of have some results, any commander of such an operation would have a question. What the heck were you doing the last almost half a year? So you need to be a complete idiot to not understand that this basically is a failure. And at the same time, there's an interesting perspective about two senators pushing Senator Graham, a friend of deceased McCain, and he's a pretty influential figure in Senate. And this is not the first attempt to push that initiative, but right now they do have a pretty good opportunity to realize that, to implement it, to basically call Russia a terrorist state under Putin's regime. Not too many people in Russia understand what it will lead to. Well, it will lead to certain things that, at least in theory, any country doing any trade with Russian Federation can be criminally prosecuted. So essentially, New York and other financial centers stop servicing any transactions with Russia. Every financial operation has a unique transaction number. And Financial Intel of the United States was putting significant effort in understanding how does Russia work on the economic market. and where do they buy things, who is selling them stuff. So after Russia will be declared a terrorist state, any big company, any big bank, any other country that is still doing business with it will try to stay away, will run away from it, facing the consequences from the United States and the West. So this is quite a financial equivalent to the nuclear hit. This would even be stronger than the seventh possible set of sanctions. And McFaul-Yermak Commission is definitely going in that direction too. They're supporting it. Zelensky, the president, turned to Biden's administration, American Senate including, with a call to recognize Russia as a terrorist state. It was a collective request by our president and the commission, and it's a joint will of the Ukrainian people that is being expressed by the highest military political leadership of our country. So we're basically slowly descending from the top of the hill and will cover the whole herd, as in that joke about a young bull and an old bull. Speaking of the herd, did you hear the piece of news about Medvedev? He was drinking not for a reason. He was drinking because his lady dumped him. His wife parted ways with him, with that little one. I heard he has some very severe fallout with her. Do you think? I think personally that you might have something to do with that, Olexiy. Yeah, you never know. Perhaps she told him that you'll never be as good as Olexiy. Well, okay, enough joking on that part. Let's look at Britain. You see that Britain is going through some turmoil. Of course, in our part of the world, it's a little harder to understand that Johnson can be impeached for having parties during the COVID restrictions, and even his party members calling him on this. So it looks like he is not going to stay. There'll be internal political elections. There'll be more candidates, even in his party. One of them will be Liz Truss, Minister of the Foreign Affairs. Maybe Johnson will support her. We don't know. But in general, how do you gauge? And would it be your opinion or maybe the position of the Ukrainian leadership? Let's put it this way. I'm not representing leadership here on this show. No, I wanted to ask you, what do you think about the leadership of Ukraine? Well, today our president talked with Boris Johnson, thanked him, and our whole top team thanked Boris Johnson for his support. He's a great friend of Ukraine. We do hope, we do love. This actually is not so simple what's going on in Britain. There are two ways that will allow them to remove Johnson. And one thing is they can do the second round of impeachment, and a second way is to push him out of the Tory party, and they already are raising some voices like that, and there are some shadows in the party that do not like him casting too big of a shadow on them, so they are working actively to get rid of him. And he is, of course, very interesting character. He is being accused of discombobulating their internal politics of the Conservative Party, and they're saying that his decisions, his behavior changed a lot of things that they do not agree with. Mostly it's related to the inner agenda, to the internal British agenda. It doesn't really affect much of the external agenda. And I would say probably it will affect more the internal course, not so much outside. Because both Labourists and Tories, they do support of Ukraine. and both sides are happy with the expansion of British influence in the world and the external politics. They already stated that they are actually looking favorably on a possible union between Britain and Poland and Eastern Europe, and they called it that'll be an important union. So this is literally focused on changing Johnson and issues related to his management. The general course of Britain likely would not change. If it is Liz Truss or another candidate, it will not make life of Kremlin easier than they had with Johnson, probably even worse. Maybe they're not as bright as or not as sparkling as Johnson, but just following Liz, I'm thinking that it appears she is supportive of the new safety system in the world, the way that the West needs to react to the threats of Iran, China, Russian Federation. And in this case, any candidate with a strategy is definitely more dangerous to guys like Russian regime than the leader without such agenda. I cannot say that Johnson did not have it, but Truss has a much more articulated concept. And I want to say that as a basis of her concept is the error that the West thought they can change the geoeconomy, and the economic changes can change the geographical politics and can affect the way other countries play in the world. But she's putting it out front that this was a mistake, that you cannot change the politics by including these countries into the world economy. And practice has shown that. All right, we'll see what happens there. That's a lot of inner affairs there, their primaries, schmimaries. On one hand, it's a sad piece of news because that Kerry guy had something that really pissed Kremlin off. And I do like when Kremlin gets pissed off. I liked him, when he during G7 said, "Hey, let's repeat what that dude in Kremlin did with his tits out on a horse." Stuff like that. It really pisses Putin off. So that was definitely a benefit of Boris Johnson. Anyway, we have another 100,000 joining us, and please subscribe. We've been live for 23 almost minutes, and we're continuing. Let's look at everything from a different side. Putin is expressing the view that y'all are very temporary. All the Western leaders come and go. I'm forever. Because he's saying that during his 20 plus years in power, I've seen 5 US presidents. I came under Clinton and I'm still sitting here under Biden. And he might even finish this current Biden's term if we, of course, would not want it, but, there is a risk. So 2 years later, there'll be another elections in states, replacement of Boris Johnson. We don't know what's going to happen in states. Will it be the return of Trump or another candidate? That symphony that, at least in the words, appeared in the world to support Ukraine. Do you think that music will change when new names, new politicians will come? Well, I think acting institutions and government systems and representation systems of the populace, they do affect what their leaders have to say. Leaders, Western leaders especially, are not just saying what they want or what they think is right. They're representatives of the people who elected them, usually. So, with the replacement of one figure for another politician will have to reflect the decision of his electorate and also support all these systems that were already geared to resist Putin's regime, and he or she will have to explain the reasoning behind it. So we understand the war will continue or might continue for a longer time, And any politician who will try to stop and change their attitude towards Putin's regime will likely be torn apart by both media and people, part of his people. And frankly, there'll be a lot of politicians who will still be around a couple years later. Macron just got elected for 5 years. Scholz is also working his party line. Britain likely staying with us. Poles definitely. United States, I don't know. Imagine Trump took office. So what if Trump comes? What happens? He actually was the first one who gave us javelins. So I don't believe that Trump will do something ridiculous and agree that Putin should have half Ukraine. And again, it's not up to Trump. It will be our troops who will tell Putin where the border is. What if he limits the amount of weaponry sent to Ukraine? Well, let's see what happens when they change Senate and Congress. There'll likely be more Republicans there, and it's very interesting relations they have with Trump. And I don't see them really withdrawing any support from Ukraine. And actually, United States are, according to the public opinion, a lot of Americans do support covering the sky or protecting Ukrainian civilians from the Russian hits. Over 80% of Americans support transfer of weapons to Ukraine. So regardless of what politician gets in power, they have to follow general flow of their electors. So, yeah, I don't think the general line will change. So you suspect that no drastic changes will occur? I would say that decision that NATO took at the end of June and the G7, these decisions are not being prepared in 2 days or 2 weeks or 2 months. They're reflecting of very serious changes in the world. And the words used were not limited by time, so timeless, continuous support. That basically is a demonstration of support of their own political course. And, you know, if they start withdrawing support from Ukraine, Taiwan will be the next one asking questions, asking, hey, are you not supporting us too if things happen? Can we trust you? So, you know, that likely will cause ripples then, and other countries will start looking for different sources of power and support. So, very unlikely that big geopolitical picture will severely change, even with a change of personalities. All right, 28 minutes, we have a little more time. Putin, as they said, supported the initiative of equalizing the soldiers from Lugansk People's Republic and Donetsk People's Republic to Russian soldiers. That's an interesting story. We know that different of status depends on, you know, sort of different countries, right? I mean, they're not really, but whatever. But they have a obligatory draft there, full mobilization, so they are hunting down their male populace. In Russia, they're not doing that. They're still asking for people willing to go and get paid for fighting in Ukraine. Well, there is also draft in Russia, the usual. Yeah, there is the usual draft, and they might and likely will send them there. But there is no total mobilization. So if you equalize them by status, do you need to start paying them? Do they become contractors? I don't know which status does he mean. I think it should somehow be similar to what Russia has. Well, if they're going to pay 7 million rubles for every deceased, they likely will pay about 70 billion to these republics, just for Slaviansk and Bakhmut. If they have such a wish, we can only welcome that. And if you're equalizing them in status, they also have to pay them salary. Yeah, they might need to if they indeed want to do that. I can only imagine the relations between Russian troops and Lugansk and Donetsk troops when they're called equals, but ones get paid, others don't. I suspect they'll never see the money. I suspect it's just a political statement. And they'll probably say that this political status does not go as far as payments. So it's more like a veteran of Ukraine campaign. And let's look at the external politics of it. So he equalized the soldiers of two other countries formally, unrecognized but countries, to Russian soldiers. That means that Russia effectively controls and provides logistics for these countries, which is understood as occupation. Not exactly occupation, but more like Russian politics. And there is no reason to even continue the thought that Donetsk and Lugansk are separate states. This is another proof in the later court that these two republics are entirely propped and funded by Russian Federation, that they're fake countries. I remember how those countries were stating for a couple of years that they're a separate country, that Russia is not here, we are the side of the conflict. Well, they've been bleating, and finally they got where we told them they were from the beginning. And we were jokingly saying that we can actually give the numbers of passports of all your independent leaders of the LNR and DNR. But right now it's up in your face, basically. Yeah, that reminds of a joke. We've been standing on the edge of a cliff, but with a new government, we decisively made 2 steps forward. So that is related to the status of country supporting terrorism and sponsoring terrorism, because Lugansk and Donetsk republics, so to say, are essentially becoming those propped marionette terrorist states. And that leads back to Kherson and Kharkov, that they potentially could, if they push the referendum there, the fake referendum for joining Russia, they could push the same concept of drafting everybody and sending to fight with Ukraine. By the way, they're already trying to mobilize remaining citizens of Lysychansk and Severodonetsk to fight with us. They're just drunkards left there, those who could not leave. Yeah, but they're still trying to catch them, and whomever they can catch, they're sending them to the front line. And that's an interesting reasoning for possible boosting the morale of some of the cities that fall on the front line. That, guys, if you don't hold your city, if you don't help our army to hold your city, you very likely will be then used as meat for the grinder on the Russian side. They'll just collect you and send you under their artillery or machine guns. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see. I think those people, remember in 2014, who were waving flags and saying, we've been waiting for Russia, we waited, we needed Russia. I think these are the first ones that should go face the grinding power of the front line. Since they really waited for Russia, well, here's Russia. We've been live for about 34 minutes. We got over 400 people, 400,000 watching us. We have a cast tomorrow and we have a cast on Saturday, right? So then maybe we pause today till tomorrow and we started that project with our merch. There is a big line. I just want to say that the price you're paying for it. Our percent is minuscule. We're not making them. This is the usual store merchandise stuff that works with YouTube, and we're just providing the artwork for that. But that money, whenever, I think they send it once a month, whenever we get that transfer, you will get shirts and keychains and everything. We will give that money, we'll donate that money to some people. Olexiy sent to me the following. The girl suffered pretty badly. She was in Odessa. For a couple of weeks she spent in reanimation. She was part of that of those citizens who lived in that building that was bombed. And it was a sad story, and she's undergoing rehab. They had to amputate her foot. And I can only say that in Kremlin there are assholes. There are idiots and assholes. Anyway, we're trying to find contacts, phone numbers of parents. If anybody can help us connect with them, we will send them a couple thousand. Yeah, she used to do kids gymnastics before that sad story. So we'll try to support them a little. That's all for today. We call upon you to subscribe to our casts, share the links, and follow to the shop, and maybe, buy our 2 mugs to help support the cause. Alright, till tomorrow, Olexiy. Thank you so very much. We'll discuss other questions. Thank you all viewers. See you tomorrow. Goodbye.